Hello and welcome to week 4 of our virtual summer library program. This week our program is In the Deep, and we'll be learning about things in the ocean, deep in the ocean. And one thing we'll really be talking about today is pollution in the ocean, how trash and things that we throw away can affect animal life, marine life in the ocean. So I hope you'll join us for In the Deep. Before we get started with our stories, we're going to learn a little bit about what pollutes the ocean and maybe some ways that we can help. The plastic problem is a real problem for the ocean. When we throw away plastic instead of recycling it, it stays on Earth for a very long time. This is because plastic isn't usually biodegradable. If plastic gets into landfills, it can take up a lot of space, but it's even worse when plastic gets into our oceans, and it does. How does garbage get into the oceans? Well, it can go down your drain. If you throw away something like a piece of dental floss or a cotton swab, something that you might flush in your toilet, it can end up in the ocean. And littering. Sometimes we throw things down outside, out of a car, or as we're walking, we might throw down a piece of trash. But that piece of trash in the rain can be washed into a gutter, into a stream, and then it might go into a river and eventually end up in the ocean. So be very careful about littering, because littering is bad for the land and for the ocean. And then from our trash cans, even if we put our trash inside the receptacle, a trash can, it can sometimes fly away, blow away once it's put in a landfill, and it can also end up in the ocean. Did you know in the ocean there's something called the Great Garbage Patch? And it is a huge accumulation of garbage in the Pacific Ocean. It is an area twice the size of Texas. That means it's huge. And it's 3 times the size of France. A lot of this garbage comes from plastic, like plastic bags, bottle caps, water bottles, and styrofoam cups. But some of it is so small you can't even see it, and this makes cleaning it up very difficult. There's a swirling mess of microplastics, and that's incredibly dangerous to sea creatures. Groups like the Ocean Cleanup Project are doing everything they can to get rid of this pollution. So we're going to talk about what is biodegradable and how long it takes for something to degrade in the ocean or on land. First of all, I'm going to show you this styrofoam cup. You might get a cup like this when you order out, or you might have them in your home. And see if you can guess how long it would take for this cup to biodegrade in our environment. It is 500 years to forever for a styrofoam cup to biodegrade. And then with your cup, you might also get a plastic straw like this. Did you know that it takes 200 years for a plastic straw to biodegrade? A piece of paper like this takes 2 to 5 months to biodegrade. And a plastic bag like this one takes 10 to 20 years to biodegrade. So we need to be very careful about our garbage and how we dispose of it, and also by trying to create less garbage. Another thing that is very dangerous in the ocean is one of these plastic rings. This is used for maybe a six pack of canned drinks or juice. And these are very dangerous to ocean animals because they can get their head stuck in it or some other body part, and then there's no way for them to get loose or get free from it. So if you have these, I guess the best thing would be try not to buy drinks that have these kinds of plastic tabs on them. But if you do, if you'll cut them all apart before you discard them, that might save the life of a marine animal. So we have to be very careful about our trash, be careful about creating trash, reducing the amount of trash that we create, recycling and reusing things so that we don't create so much garbage. The first book we're going to read is The Tale of the Whale by Swann. The illustrator is Padma Kandra, and the publisher is Margaret K. McElderry Books. The Tale of the Whale. Where land becomes sky and sky becomes sea, I first saw the whale, and the whale first saw me. And high on the breeze came his sweet-sounding song. I've so much to show you if you'll come along, says the whale. I scrambled aboard in the silvery light and watched tiny houses drift far out of sight. I smiled at the whale, and the whale smiled at me. We sailed the blue ocean with turtles and rays, and tail splashed the seagulls in deep water bays. We danced with the dolphins and waltzed through the sea. I laughed with the whale, and the whale laughed with me. I took a deep breath, and we dived through the blue, and there on the bottom, a ship with no crew. It was a shipwrecked ship. But where was the treasure deep under the sea? I shrugged at the whale, and the whale shrugged at me. We swam over mountains, through valleys of sand, an ocean in motion, a bright, busy land. With carpets of colors that breathed with the sea, I watched with the whale, and the whale watched with me. We crashed through the surface, we splashed oh so high, a splutter, a rumble, then whoosh to the sky. I'm flying, I cried, to the cold ice-capped sea. I waved to the whale, and the whale waved to me. The whale's tummy rumbled, his mouth opened wide, and half of the ocean was swallowed inside. Can you see all of these things that are going into his mouth? Bottles and bags and all sorts of things. Not just fish, which is what the whale would eat. I stared at the whale, and the whale stared back at me. I understood now what he had brought me to see. A watery trash can of bottles and caps, some straws, an old toothbrush, and torn plastic wraps, a net lost while fishing, a large coffee cup, the soup of the ocean. He had swallowed it up. A turtle in trouble. This turtle is caught in a net. A gull in distress. It has one of those plastic can rings around its neck. A tightening collar. Some plastic is around this seal's neck. And a plastic bag mess. You see this gull trying to get a plastic bag. We traveled home saddened by all we could see. I cried with the whale, and the whale cried with me. I gazed in his eyes as I stood on the sand, and I made him a promise to tell the whole land. The tale of the whale and the plastic soup sea. You've heard the whale's story. Please change it with me. Can you see that they're cleaning up the beach and picking up trash? I hope you've enjoyed this wonderful story, The Tale of the Whale by Swann. Our next book is Little Turtle and the Changing Sea, a story of survival in our polluted oceans. It's written by Becky, Davies, and illustrated by Jenny Poe, and the publisher is Tiger Tales Books. Little Turtle and the Changing Sea. It began with a thunderstorm. The rain lashed and the waves crashed as Little Turtle pushed her way out of the nest and onto the wet sand. She needed to be quick, one flipper in front of the other. She pulled herself down the beach and toward the safety of the sea. Can you see all the baby turtles? When they hatch, they have to get to the ocean as quickly as possible. So this happens in places where the sea turtles go to nest. Thunder rumbled in the sky as Little Turtle slipped into the sea for the very first time. The water rose to meet her, and she was tossed and turned in the spray. Which way was up? Tiny turtles splashed all around her, calling, "Swim, swim!" Just when Little Turtle's flippers were tiring, she managed to hitch a ride, and her journey began. Warm currents carried Little Turtle over a carpet of color. She danced with the swaying seagrass. She swam with the fish of every shape and size. "What beauty!" she cried. Happy and content, Little Turtle climbed into a cozy hole in the rock and slept. Can you see her down in her cozy little hole in the rock? Months passed, and Turtle was no longer little. She had outgrown her hideaway. But she would never outgrow the ocean. Turtle swam onward through miles of dazzling open water. She was alone, but she didn't feel lonely. The ocean was her friend. At last, Turtle's journey was complete. She had made it to the other side of the world. Home, she sighed. And what a home it was! Foraging and feeding, Turtle lived there happily for many years, until it was time one day for her to return. To return to the beach across the ocean where she had been born. She made the same journey many times, but found each time the trip was different. She saw new sights, made new friends, and welcomed some new little turtles into the world. Turtle, too, was different. As she grew each year, her love for the ocean grew, too. Then one day, the ocean itself was different. Can you see there's a plastic bag, there's some trash, a bottle, another plastic bag. There's a lot of trash in the beautiful ocean that Turtle loves. Colors disappeared, and Turtle found strange new creatures swimming beside her. "Friend?" she asked, but she was met with silence. She thinks that paper bag might be a friend. Plastic bag. The strangeness grew and grew. Nothing looked the same. And Turtle felt lost in the place that she loved the most. The ocean no longer felt like a friend. "Hello," she spoke in the darkness. But Turtle was alone, and she's also trapped in a net, a fishing net. Just when Turtle thought her journey was over forever, figures emerged from the strangeness and swam toward her. Can you see the divers there? Turtle was free. Little by little, she watched as they tended to the seagrass, the coral, and her friends. Then they cleaned up the garbage. "Thank you," she said. They had returned her to the ocean. And they began to return Turtle's ocean to her. It was beautiful once more, and she loved it with her whole heart. I hope you've enjoyed this book, Little Turtle and the Changing Sea.